Oh, you thought this was just a podcast? Nah, honey. This that work. Soul work. Where therapy meets poetry and real talk sounds like late night radio. And me, I'm your favorite auntie who will read you for filth with psychological precision. I'm J. Marie, and this is UnMuted. Relational rants and real talk. Yeah, I got what you want and what you never knew you needed. Hey y'all, welcome back to UnMuted. Relational rants and real talk. I am your host, J. Marie, and I want to welcome you to this episode, which I don't know, I think is going to be interesting to say the least. And I think it's something that it's probably not often talked about, and I want to talk about it today. And I think it's something that certain people can definitely relate to, certain, I'm going to say professions. But so one thing I wanted to really talk about today is really like the loneliness of being a therapist. And this may not apply to all therapists, but it definitely applies to me. There's a feeling of loneliness that happens. And it's interesting because I share this sometimes with people because I feel like I spend a lot of time by myself, and I really do. I really spend a lot of time alone. But I do spend a lot of my time as well with other people, but a lot of times it's clients, right? So it's like with clients, you're interacting, but there's limitations to the interactions that you have. So it's not a balance kind of interaction that you have as a therapist. And it made me start reflecting on just the loneliness I felt all of my life. And when I say all of my life, I mean literally, like all of my life, I've always like battled with some level of um, feeling alone and not feeling like I really belong here. And it's not just like superficially, like with my peers or not feeling like I fit in. It's more of like, I didn't even feel like I really fit in my family. And I remember being a kid and when like my parents would leave and I had a chance to like rummage, be sneaky and go through their stuff. I was always like thinking like a picture of my real family was gonna fall out somewhere. And I don't really know why I felt like that. It's not like I look starkly different than my family, my immediate family, but I mean, even in my extended family, I don't often feel like I fully belong there. And the reality is, it has nothing to really do with my family or my extended family. I just really don't feel like almost, and I'm not really being facetious, that I don't really belong on earth. Like sometimes it just feels really like I just feel so misunderstood a lot of times that it makes me feel like I don't belong. And I know that I do. Like I know I belong on earth. I know I have a very particular purpose to serve on earth. And lately, I've been having a lot more thoughts about Jesus. Didn't see that one coming. Well, you probably will see it coming because it's probably going to be labeled in the title somewhere. But in a lot of my reflections lately, I've been thinking more and more and more about Jesus. And I've been like attracted more and more to Jesus. And I want to talk about this episode because I need you guys to have a level of nuance. I'm going to be talking a lot about basically comparing myself to Jesus. And I know that I'm not Jesus, okay? Like, I know that for sure. And I'm glad I'm not Jesus, actually. But I am going to kind of do some parallels. And the other thing that I want people to hold nuance around is that this is not an episode about pity, or it's not coming from a place of victimhood for me. It's just to talk and share about some of my experiences, which is what Unmuted is all about. I'm really kind of digging into or leaning into Unmuted being a live action memoir for me. I've been wanting to do a memoir, write a memoir all my life, and this is like the medium that feels right for me right now in terms of how I want to share my story with the world. And so that is where this episode is going. So, what's interesting about Jesus showing up in a lot of my reflections is that I've never really been a religious person. I didn't really go to church. I mean, occasionally I would go to church when I was a kid, like when I visit my grandmother. My mom had a really good friend that was very religious. So sometimes I would do religious activities. We had Bibles in our home, but religion wasn't something we regularly, or going to church wasn't something that we regularly participated in. And anytime I went to church, I participated in those types of activities, I felt that same sense of like I didn't belong. I never really felt like I belonged in church. I didn't really understand the Bible like that. Like I would try to read it and understand it. I had a kid Bible, and I remember just being very fearful in a sense of some of the things. And like I can clearly remember like a lot of the images from my children's Bible as a kid that were terrifying. Very terrifying. So, and then the other aspect of not feeling like I really belonged in church and in religion is because it's so black and white. I feel like particularly the church and the way that we use religion is a method of, control often, and it's very black and white. And so when you approach it in that sense, it's easy to feel someone like myself who's very curious, who's going to ask questions, who really wants to understand things that are contradictory. You can understand why I didn't feel like I belonged and why I shied away from it. And I think I'm still running. Like I'm trying to I think Jesus been coming up in my reflection, like, yo, where you at? WYA. And I'm just like, Jesus. No, I know Jesus. But because I have felt like I've had to get to know Jesus in the way that it's presented to me, that still is very contradictory in a sense, or like it just doesn't fit the way that my mind works. I've shied away from it. But it keeps coming up. He keeps coming up. And so lately I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to do your thing and dive into it. So today, what's been weighing on me is just the weight that I carry, right? As like I said, the loneliness of being a therapist. I am, what do I want to call? I'm very much a regulator and stabilizer in life. And I'm understanding that role a lot more these days. Like I always knew that I provided a lot of support to people, and I tend to like show up in crisis. But when I realized lately how much I actually like regulate people and provide stability, it's been a lot. And I feel like a lot of times my friends and my family don't really understand the weight it is that I actually carry. And that can be like incredibly lonely when people really don't understand what it is that you actually give to people. And like Jesus, I feel the gravity of what it is that I actually bring into people's life and what I do for other people won't be really understood until I'm gone. And unlike Jesus, I don't get to resurrect. Now I do in some regards, but that's probably a different episode. Today, or just really recently, lately, and probably forever, I just like people really pull on me. People really have a lot of expectations out of me. And this is less about me needing boundaries in my life because been there, done that. It's less about the type of people that I choose to befriend. It's really the calling that is on my life. And it's heavy. It's a heavy calling on my life. And I feel like a lot of my friendships, I feel like a lot of my family relationships, I feel like a lot of them are one-sided. No. I won't say one-sided. I'll just say imbalanced. That's what I would say. Imbalanced. And a lot of the stuff that I do for people is very invisible. It's not something that I throw in people's faces. It's just kind of how I naturally am and how I naturally exist. And it's these things that aren't bad all the time. Like it's not always like your friends calling you with problems or your family calling you with stressful things. It's that, but it's also good stuff. When you're a person who provides stability and comfort to people, they want you around. They want you in their lives. And because as humans, we're so kind of single focused, we're so self-centered in a way, we don't really give we don't really take into consideration or perspective that it may be 5 other people like you asking me for the same thing or expecting the same thing out of me, and it could just really weigh on me. And often I could never like rest. Like I never really get the opportunity to actually rest. And it's not really just around sleep and things like that. It's just around I'm always being, I don't know what the word for it, like pulled or it's something. And I was thinking about that today of part of why I feel like I can never rest too is that I think relationships in this day and age are based off this kind of guilt economy, I guess, in a sense. It's like people often guilt me. Now, I will say clearly that some of this is my own experience, right? And some of this is likely some projection, but also it's a very real thing. And I find that people, and I'm not saying this, and this is why I need you guys to hold nuance, because I'm not saying that this is just all or nothing. Like this is every relationship I have, or this is always the case. But I do find often that when people are calling to check on me, it's not very genuine to me. And it's not that I'm saying that they actually don't really care about me. Because my friends, my family, I know that they do. I know that they love me. I know they want me to around them. I know this. I'm not questioning their love. Not at all. Okay. But sometimes it doesn't feel genuine because people tend to lead with making me feel bad in some type of way for what it is that I'm doing or not doing, or how I'm just not meeting their needs, or I'm not showing up in the way that they want me to show up. And it's just exhausting. It's like I can't miss a phone call. I can't call you back later. I can't opt out. Like I can't. I'm constantly criticized for dropping the ball, for being inconsiderate because I'm late. I might be late to something and it's like, oh, it's always this a personal like attack, like I'm doing something to you, and it's never consideration like, oh, maybe she's tired. Maybe she just has a lot on her plate. It's always like this personal thing when it's not. And if it's not that part of it that they feel like personally attacked by it, is then something's wrong with me. And that's usually the instance. Something's wrong with me. And it makes having boundaries, it makes taking rest, it constantly reads as you're doing something wrong when people make you somehow you're collapsing or somehow you're not functioning well because you're not in service to them. And so then I got to deal with that. I got to prove that I'm okay, even though I'm tired or I need rest or whatever, or I just don't have the energy or the capacity. So I have to prove that I'm okay. And proving that I'm okay is functioning in the way that you need me to function in. Or I have to manage the guilt that you're also projecting onto me for not showing up the way that you need me to show up. And that's exhausting. It's just exhausting. And I think like a really good example of this is if you looked or checked out the last episode, I'm talking about my abusive ex. Now, him violating the no contact order, we could talk about that from the standpoint of, oh, that's what we would call post separation abuse. And someone continues to call, harass you, and stuff like that, stalk you, post separation abuse. But it's also just his need to regulate through me. He still wants to tether himself to me for regulation purposes. And so just the act of him reaching out to me and contacting me actually probably soothed whatever was going on with him in that moment. And that's like Jesus, right? We call on Jesus. And just calling on Jesus makes us feel better. I kid you not, yo. It's like, and I'm just saying, I'm not Jesus, but it feels like that sometimes. And so this is my calling in life, though. And this is the what we call cognitive dissonance, right? Because I know it to be true that this is my calling, but then I'm also struggling with this being my calling. And it made me start thinking about the stories my mom told me about my birth or just being pregnant with me and how I was as a baby. And my mom always told me, she was like, you were my biggest baby, which tracks. She gained the most weight with me, which also tracks. You were carrying a heavy load now. You didn't probably know what you was getting yourself into. You didn't know. She was on bed rest, ordered to bed rest while she was pregnant with me. She talks about the day I was born. Well, no, the day, and I'm telling this in the way my mom would share these stories with me. So she would always talk about the day she brought me home from the hospital and how warm it was. I was born in February. And she always talks about how warm it was and how she fell. She fell with me in her arms and she was like, I panicked. and ran back up to the hospital because she was like, I had to make sure everything was okay with you. And I was like, okay, tracks. You would fall. Maybe that's why I'm so clumsy. I don't know. Like, maybe it was me. Maybe it was my energy. My mama went whoopsie. Right before I recorded this episode, I literally knocked over a glass of water. I was so mad. I was like, I needed that. So maybe it was my energy. But she also would tell me for years how I rarely cried as a baby. Now, I don't think my mom is being like facetious when she says that or when she say that or tell me that. But I think what she really meant was like I didn't cry probably like unnecessarily. I'm assuming. And she always says to me, she would say to me, she would be like, you would she was like, I would have to get up in the morning, and she was like, and I know this sounds like probably what moms do, but she literally would be like, I had to come actually check on you. She was like, because you wouldn't cry to alert that you were up. And she was like, I would come in your room, and she was like, you would be laying in your crib just smiling. She was like, you just be smiling. And I was like, yeah, probably talking to Jesus. Jesus is probably like, you better take advantage. You better take advantage of not walking or talking, because guess what? This the last little bit of rest you're gonna get. And so I think what my mom just really meant was I was a really agreeable baby. And I think it just contrasts to I was my mom's second child, her first daughter. But I think it was just a contrast between me and my older brother. And my older brother was a little bit more, you know, uh, dysregulated, I guess, in a sense. Not like his whole disposition, but I think he was just more expressive in that way, like crying, and he was more just sensitive to certain things, like being left with relatives for the weekend or something like that. And it was just a thing in my family that they would talk about when my mom would drop my older brother off, and he would cry and be dysregulated like normal. I mean, this is normal developmental stuff that kids do. But I would be like, I was just fine. Just fine. So I think it was that part too, like just the contrast. And years ago, my mom told me the story of when she went into labor with me. And it just really changed things for me. It's something that I just cannot release. So she was like, she was just setting it up. I think she was with my auntie, her sister, and my grandmother and my mom's mom. And something happened. I think my mom, they were eating or something. She went into labor, and I want to say that maybe they took her to the hospital. My dad met her up there or something like that. But my mom says to me, she basically was like, when you were born, it was like you brought everybody together. It was, you just knew what everybody needed. And I remember thinking to myself, like, at first I was just like, oh, that's sweet. And then I sat with it more and more, and I was like, damn, that's heavy. I couldn't even hold my eyelids open by myself, really? And I'm supposed to know what everybody needed? And so it's like, and my mom's like, it's like you knew. And so it's been this calling, right? It's this knowing I have, and this calling I have of my life that has always been there and has felt like pressure to me, because I've been stabilizing and regulating people since birth. Since 19, I ain't gonna go there. I've been in business. It's been established that this is what I do. And so that's why I've been thinking more and more about Jesus. more and more about him. And so one thing that I started researching at one point was like, I forgot exactly what it was, but it was just about unnecessary suffering. And Jesus came up. And this is like the first, not the first time, but it started to be what kind of really started to present itself to me of like, you need to kind of start learning more about Jesus. So, in terms of Jesus, as a therapist, you are held to this moral standard. And this is partly of why I wanted to do Unmuted and let people know, like, as a therapist, I am just a regular person too. But you don't get to actually exist as a regular person as a therapist. And it's hard. And it's the reason why, like, I have a good girlfriend that when I meet new people, her friends or family or her partner's family, I'm like, can you not tell people I'm a therapist? Because this I'm on vacation or I'm off. And her thing is just like, well, I'm just so proud of you. And it's like, okay, I appreciate that. I do. I really do. And I know what she means because my friend been my friend for a long time. So she knows where I come from. So I love that. But it's also like, but that doesn't override my personal boundaries. I know you're proud of me, but I don't want to talk about my career right now. Or when I tell dates, men that I meet lately, I'm just like, I don't share that I'm a therapist because, again, I said this in another episode, they just filter everything about me through that lens. And so it starts to become less about me and more about the role that I have, right? Being a therapist is just like kind of, I want to say one aspect of me, but I don't know. That's why I need Jesus, because I need some direction. And then it's like, it's this thing too that happens whenever I talk to my friends and I give advice sometimes. It's like I get criticized about the stuff that I say or the recommendations that I make. And it's just like, if I'm not giving you advice, it's a problem. If I'm giving you advice, it's a problem. It's never just, and it's like, if I'm giving you advice and you don't like the advice, then you try to chop it up to me just being a therapist. Or if I tell you how I'm handling a problem, and because I'm handling it with a level of maturity and usually emotional detachment, I'm acting like a therapist. And you need to just cuss people out. But then let me cuss somebody out, then it become, oh, I thought you was a therapist. You're a therapist. Or don't say something that somebody don't like, okay? Because then it'd be like, and you call yourself a therapist? I thought I was Jasmine. Or J. Marie. That's probably why I need a new identity. Okay. So it's constant. It's constant. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because I connect that you're a therapist, you call yourself a therapist, or when I say certain things, to talking white. It's the same kind of thought process. If I tell you how to handle something in a more mature way or in a healthier way, it's basically me talking white. It's therapist speak. Oh, you talking like a therapist now. And then it's funny because in the next moment, I'll say something like real hood and just ignorant and just whatever. And I'll be like, is that good enough for you? Am I still talking like a therapist? It's hilarious. And it's interesting too because it goes back to some things that I made a quick story about not too long ago where I was like, people, strangers are always asking me for things. Whether it's directions, whether it's something to find at the grocery store, Whether it's, hey, do you know where the Apple store at? I'm like, it's 70 people right here, but I'm the one that you ask. And it's just this level of comfort people feel with me. Like, it's really people they're very attracted to me, and not in like a romantic sense. It's just I look like somebody that provides care, that will take care of somebody, like Jesus. All types of people was coming up to Jesus. Now I don't know the Jesus ins and outs. I'm just, riffing off of what I do know. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like Jesus. Okay, cool. And then recently is interesting because in the last a little over a month, I say like last 6 weeks or something like that, I literally been kissed on the cheek by 3 men, three strangers, three strange men. And it was in like a party, you know what I'm saying, social setting, men that literally I don't know. I mean, they're sparking conversation. They're obviously, attracted to something, interested in me in some type of capacity. But literally, they all stole kisses on my cheek. And it was interesting is too, and I guess interesting to be the word of the podcast, is that I know that a lot of my friends would have had a fit. They would have threw a fit. It would have been a scene, which is probably also why, it probably wouldn't have happened to them in the first place. And it's just, I absorb it because it's there's still this sweetness about it, right? Because it's really compulsive, because they can't really help themselves. It's not something that's predatory. It's not them. Yes, it's a violation of my boundaries or my personal space, but it's not. They're trying to cause harm or something, but it's really something that they don't know why. I think, and you can see it. It's like they're just like, I couldn't resist. And I asked one of the guys recently. I was like, "What was it made you kiss me?" And he was just like, "You're beautiful." And I'm like, "There's plenty of beautiful women." I didn't say this to him. I just accepted the non-answer because I didn't really feel like that was a real answer. But there's plenty of beautiful women around, so you don't go around kissing them. So I was just like, whatever. It's just my thing, and it's part of how much I give to people. Right? So now we got friends, we got family, we got random instructions from the strangers, we got kisses now. We got me coming into the on the earth with a knowing of what everybody needed. It tracks, right? It tracks. And even when I think about it too, like as a baby, when I got older as an adult, I would see my auntie, uncle friends, like family friends that knew me when I was little. And that was always the feedback they would give me. They would talk about me when I was a baby, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're just such a cute baby. You had your cute little pouty pink lips, and you're just so cute." And I mean, it's like their face just lights up about it. I'm like, eh. And I think I was just, again, very agreeable. I have this energy about me where people feel very comfortable with me. And I mean, obviously, it's part of what makes me a good therapist as well. And then being a therapist, the weight of being a therapist. I want to say something as we talk about nuance. This is not for me to be like, I'm better than you. This is not narcissistic. You know what I'm saying? This is just my experience. Like, and I'm just sharing it, the reality of what it is. And I was thinking about the lack of rest I get and how exhausted. I feel like I have an exhaustion that will never be solved. I don't care how much sleep I get. I don't care how many vacations I go on. And speaking of vacations, I'm gonna talk about that too. It doesn't matter. It's an existential exhaustion. I said to a good friend of mine not too long ago that my soul is exhausted. And I mean that. I'm tired right now. I'm exhausted right now. But it was important for me to get on here and do this episode because I think it's important. And so lately, I've also been reflecting on why I'm so exhausted. And I've been doing this thing in therapy with my clients around holding multiple storylines. And we talk about healing trauma. To me, when you really do really deep trauma work, one of the things you're going to do is, or one of the things you should do, is look at all the different storylines that actually happen. Because what we like to do is just sit with one. This is where we talk about nuance and the complexity, right? We talk about complex trauma. There's multiple storylines that are often taking place. And we talk a lot about, not in therapy, but just in general, like the dimension of time, right? That time isn't like there's multiple timelines happening. Okay. And when you really start thinking about perceptions of time, it is wild. And this is not something I've like researched, but this is just my own experience when I reflect on this stuff, is how I often exist in a lot of different timelines. And I exist in places, and all of us do. Don't get me wrong, all of us do exist in places where we're not at currently. And so what made me start thinking about that is some of the reflections and feedback that I get from my clients. And it's crazy to me. The first time I really started thinking about it was when I had two clients that they're coworkers, and they went on a trip, and they both came back and shared their experience interacting with each other. And I got brought up. And I was like, dang, they was in a whole different state. And I'm obviously there too. No, a part of me is there. That's crazy. And then I got another client that was just like talking just about how she's like, well, Jasmine said when she has conversations with her mother. And so now the mom is like, oh, well, did Jasmine say this? Or I told you that, but now that Jasmine said it. And it's like, it's crazy because I never met her mama a day in my life. My mama know me. You know what I mean? So I exist in that timeline. I don't know where I'm at and what I'm doing when I'm there. And then what am I doing when simultaneously? Right? Because then you have your clients that also come back to you. They'll tell you situations that they're in or circumstances that they're in. And they're like, I had to stop and be like, what would Jasmine do? Or what would Jasmine think? Or what would Jasmine say? It's very WWJD. You remember them bracelets from back in the day about what would Jesus do? It's very much that. What would Jasmine do? I thought about you. It's usually how they say it. I thought about you, and especially when they're getting ready to like disrupt a pattern of functioning, they often call on me in that moment, right? So I exist as an entity in their minds, in their space, as a literal like object, really. This was a theory called object relations. I become like a working figure in their life of how to operate. So I have plenty of clients. So just, you know what I'm saying? So I'm often in these different realms, like really existing in realms, and I don't even know what I be doing and where I be at for real. People really carry me with them. I have so many clients that come in the session and be like, well, you remember what you said to me back in April? I be like, what? do I? I be like, what? And then they tell me, because I'll be on the edge of my seat, because I'll be like, what did I say? And then when they tell me, I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. I'll be like, all right, that makes sense. I told you the right thing. Cool. So it's just that. It's like, give so much of myself to people. And people really don't understand the weight of that, the weight that I carry. And it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't love you. It's not any of that. It's not that I'm not functioning well. It's just that I'm tired, yo. I'll just be tired. Okay. Anyway, Jesus. Back to Jesus. I think Jesus is my twin flame. That sounds pretty wild. But I remember a while ago, I was reading this astrology, like little blurb about me, and it just said like you're gonna need it. Like, you're gonna need to be connected to this the spiritual realm. Like you have to. Like you have to. And at first I was like, damn, that's a really particular read on a astrology app. But as I continue to reflect and just grow, I realized, yeah, that's probably the only way I'm gonna really feel I belong somewhere. And that's why I think Jesus continues to come up for me. Not as a like, I need him to like rescue me from my sin or atone me for my sins or to prove that I'm worthy. It's really like, I need the mentorship. I need the mentorship. I need to understand what it's like to have so many people call on you, depend on you, look for you, call out to you again, carry you with them. Like we carry Jesus with us everywhere. Oh, thank you, Jesus. He's so baked into our culture. Not even just from like a religious, just from a religious standpoint, but just pop culture. I got Black Jesus. I love that show. Got all different shades of Jesus. Okay. He had the bracelets. What would Jesus do? Jesus everywhere. And I was reading something today that was like how pivotal Jesus was because he literally splits time. I was like, dang, that's parallel about time before Christ, after Christ. Crazy, right? So I'm just like, okay, Jesus is my mirror because I'm starting to learn more about him, how much of a disruptor he was, right? How caring he was, how much he loved people, um, and how Jesus tended to be around the people in society we tend to reject. I was recently talking to my trainer, my personal trainer, and we were just talking about clientele, whatever. And he was like, yeah, because I mean, well, the people you work with, they be having all type of issues going on, all this and stuff. And I was like, the people I work with are you. I work with people like you. What do you mean? You were in therapy, I'm in therapy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I work with regular people, but that go through stuff. But yeah, have I worked with people who've had more severe needs? Absolutely. But I work with your everyday person. But that's who Jesus was always around. The regular average person or the people who were rejected from society or, ostracized to some extent. And so part of what actually does help me feel like I belong is how I help other people feel like they belong. is really what I kind of do in therapy. And it's another way that I feel that parallel with Jesus. And the other part about that is like when you, like, I'm not Jesus, thank God. I'm human. I have a finite amount of capacity. I'm not Jesus. I don't have unlimited unconditional love for everybody, you know? And I don't want to be Jesus in that regard. However, I understand Jesus because Jesus was stripped from his humanity. And I feel that way. And it's not just Jesus, it's people in other roles, people with other titles that feel the same way, right? It's like I'm stripped from my humanity. As soon as I tell somebody I'm a therapist, as soon as somebody else shares I'm a therapist, because I am a therapist the way that I have to, or I'm expected to show up, it really kind of strips you from really being yourself. And it's hard because being a therapist is part of actually who I am. And I know it's part of my calling and part of my purpose here. But it's rough sometimes. Because people always be like, what's the hard part about being a therapist? Do you get weighed down by what people say? And it's not it's not what people say or their experiences that weigh me down. Like, it's not that. It's actually that I can't fully be myself sometimes. That's the weight of being a therapist. And it just shows up in a lot of different capacities. But the thing is, this is my calling. This is my purpose. And I know that. I'm not afraid of it. I'm devoted. I'm deeply devoted to it. And where I'm at right now is trying to figure out through looking at Jesus' life and his story, how I cannot end up on the cross. Crucified, okay? I don't want to be crucified and I don't want to be burnt out. And when I was thinking about certain things, when I was thinking about how people get upset when I don't call them back, or, I am late. First of all, I got ADHD, like real talk. Real talk. I got ADHD, and it'd be like, do you know how many things going on in my head right now? Do you know how much I overcommit? Do you know how much I actually care? Because if I didn't care, I wouldn't come. And you wouldn't be looking for me if I didn't care. And this is the part that really gets on my nerves. I ain't gonna lie. That gets on my nerves. I have a friend who she always talking about I'm mean. I don't like people. I'd be like, I'm the only one that bring everybody together. What are you talking about? I'm literally in this group of people I used to work with, the only one that hang out with everybody still. Not everybody, but you know what I'm saying? For the most part. But I have to be what you think I am. I have to stay there. Yeah, I'm running late for your event because I'm running to your event. Just running late because I am a runner. I'm a flight risk. Ask Jesus. That's why I think he's my twin flame. And when we talk about twin flames, what we're really talking about, it's not always about the romantic part of it, right? It's a spiritual concept. And it really means mirroring energy. And what it's supposed to help you do is really elevate. It's supposed to help you really become who you're supposed to become. And I'm like, I'm definitely the runner in the relationship, my twin flame relationship with Jesus, because Jesus probably is my soulmate. He probably is my soulmate. And I've been running. And so I'm working on not running anymore. Trying to meet Jesus. And it's interesting because I would meet Jesus in this capacity. I was never meant to meet Jesus with, hey, if you haven't accepted the Lord and Savior, Jesus as your Lord and Savior, come up to the That's never how I was supposed to meet Jesus, obviously. And it's obvious I'm going to do things always and forever on my own terms, which, like it or love it, hate it, mostly, whatever you want to call it. I just feel like this is like an internship for me. Okay. I'm in internship with Jesus because, I need his guidance. I'm not worried about my sins. I'm not worried about them. But what I am worrying about is burning out before it's time. About leaving this life with unfinished business. About not fully, leaning into my purpose and carrying out my duties here on earth the way that it's meant for me to be or meant for me to do. And that's what I'm consulting Jesus about right now. And so I'll keep y'all posted on my journey because Jesus has been texting me like, where you at? Pull up. Pull up. Okay. And I'm like, damn, Jesus. Okay, finally I am going to pull up. And so though this has been a very non-conventional way to meet Jesus, because Jasmine is non-conventional, everything about me, it is right on time. And so am I. I just need y'all to give me a little grace. I need y'all to take me into consideration, right? When we say stuff like, he may not come what you want when you want, but he's always on time. I need y'all to apply that to me. I may not come when you want, but I'm always on time for sure. And I got some upcoming episode that's gonna let you know how I'm always on time and I'm always showing up. Okay, when you call on me, I'm gonna be there. Seriously, God is good, right? Jesus is good, right? All the time, right? I'm gonna need y'all to apply some of that logic to me. Okay, when I'm calling you back, it ain't because I'm not calling you back. I should say it's not because I don't love you. Give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm tired, because that's usually all it is. I'm tired. That's really all it is. Okay, I'm withering away. I'm burning out. I got to replenish my flame and I got to take care of myself. And that's all it is. So, okay, that's it. That's the episode. I have something I'm going to be dropping, hopefully in the next couple of days. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be literally more story time. Now, I know I tell stories in here, right? Today I told a bunch of stories, but this is like story, telling. It's not fake stories though. It's real stories about my life, but it's going to be just formatted in a different way. And I'm excited about dropping that. And I think that's going to be a great lead into this special episode that I'm doing soon. It's about my friend Felicia. I mentioned her in the episode before, episode about my ex, and I'm saying I call my friend, and I'm like, and she's like, "Are you crying?" That's my friend Felicia. I'm like, "Let's go for a ride, friend." That's her. So, I think there's going to be another pivotal episode, and I'm excited about it. And as always, I see you. I hear you. I'm here for you. And thank you for being here with me. Until next time, I'm out.